the most safe way possible. So a couple things that we want to think of is number one, the knee is a hinge, right? So we should never be pivoting at the knee. We want to keep the knee a hinge, whereas the hip is a ball and socket joint. So we want that rotation to be happening at the hip. That's number one, keep our knees a hinge. The second thing is, those wrinkles in the heels that we talk about. Not having those wrinkles help to keep our knees really, really safe. So really trying to keep this foot, which we'll look at as well. And then the third thing I really want to look at is the hamstring. And so thinking of from the back of the knee to sort of where the butt meets the thigh, that would be where our hamstring is. And the hamstring wants to move ideally from the backs of the knees towards the butt. So it's moving this way. And then energetically, the calves are going to move from the back of the knee towards the heel. So we want to create almost like this tug of war happening, which allows us to release the hamstrings without any risk of tearing. As you get older, sometimes that happens, all right? We push too hard. So those are kind of the logistics we're looking at. Does everybody know where their outer trochanter's are?
Whoops, no.
Okay, so I will show you because we have a skeleton who I really like. Army buddy bones. So we all know where the femur is, right? So if this was our femur, right, and the super thick bit at the head of the femur is the trochanter. So this is the outer trochanter, right? So where I feel it is right here, right? So you know how we pull our femurs into our hip sockets? And then instead of squeezing the hips to one another, I think about moving the outer trochanter's to one another, like that. And it just shifts the sacrum in a little bit, and that allows us to get super, super deep into our hips, right? So it's basically the outer bone at the head of the femur. Does that make sense? Right? So it's really moving the tops of our femurs to one another. But I think of kind of where my butt meets my thigh, right about here is where I get it, and then I just kind of go like that. Right? And just upon a value, basically. All right, so let's get started. First, we're going to find the backs of the knees and the hip flexors, and we're just going to loosen up our backs. So knees together, feet together, hands behind the thighs, make a nice C, come down nice and slow, one disc, one vertebra at a time. We're going to take our stick, we're going to put our stick where our hip flexors are, and we're going to draw our legs to us. Let's start just by interlacing our fingers either over our shins, nice and close to our knees, or behind our thighs. As we pull the legs to us, think about lifting the legs up away from us. Relax the neck and shoulders, and make sure you can shake your head for no. Really thinking about pushing through the soles of the feet as you squeeze your thighs, your ankles, and your knees to one another. So the first thing I want you to do is really thinking about injecting your femurs. So with your hands nice and close to your knees, think about taking the knees and pulling them towards the hips. So you're taking the femur bone, which is the bone inside your thighs, and you're drawing it towards the hip socket. And then as you squeeze the thighs together, think about your inner thighs dropping a block, think about your outer thighs squeezing a block, think about your inner heels dropping a block, think about your outer heels squeezing a block. Good. Keep injecting those femurs. Nice. Think about lengthening your pubic bone away from your navel. If we can, let's put the stick right there. Perfect. Nice. And then keeping that connection, keep squeezing the thighs, ankles, and knees to one another. Take your hand to your stick and use your hands to push the stick towards the hip flexors. And just see if you can find that connection. Is everybody kind of getting that? Really think pubic bone away from navel. Good. And then again, go back to interlacing your fingers over the shins and just rocking from side to side. See if you can keep your knees level, your ankles level, your feet nice and active. Let's just rock from side to side. Keep pulling the femurs into the hip socket. And then letting that rocking from side to side turn into little circles. And then swapping the interlacing, change direction with the circles. And then again, rocking from side to side. Pressing through the feet, making sure the neck and the shoulders are relaxed. And then stopping with the side to side, you're going to keep your thighs where you are. You're going to take your stick, you're going to tuck your stick into the backs of the knees. You're going to bend your knees as much as you can, bringing your heels towards your feet. And then just very gently take your hands to the back of the stick and draw the stick towards the front of the kneecaps. So often you hear me saying take the backs of the knees towards the front of the knees. I want you to just very gently find that connection. And then think about still having an imaginary stick where your hip flexors are and take that stick towards your butt. So you've got the two sticks moving in two directions. So one of the things that I find works for me is if I can actually really find a space, you know, like the back of the knee, like the hip flexors, and if I can stabilize those 2 points by moving them in 2 directions, then I've got a hope and heck of moving the hamstrings, which runs between those 2 spaces, right? Whereas if I don't know where my knees are, I don't know where my butt is, it's hard for me to know where to move or how to move the hamstrings. So just really trying to isolate your mind into these connections, really finding it. Good. Again, thinking about the outer thighs squeezing in, so bringing those knees together if you can. Don't force it if you can't. So your outer thighs are squeezing in, so if there was a block between your thighs, that the outer thighs are trying to squeeze. And then think about your inner thighs pulling apart. That's a trickier connection and a very, very important one. So it's like you've got a block between your thighs and your inner thighs are trying to drop that block. Keep moving the backs of the knees towards the front of the knees. Keep moving the hip flexors towards the sit bones. Nice active feet. So do you have any injuries or anything that I should know about? Nothing at all? Good. And you're just going to move your hands, but you're going to keep your legs exactly where they are. You're going to take your fingers, you're going to hold on to your shoulders. Just very gently squeezing the shoulders. Good. Take your elbows nice and wide, and let's start with big, slow forward circles. If at any point it feels like you're tired, you can always put your feet on the floor. Do you want to move, or are you okay with the sun?
I'm okay, actually, right now.
So gently squeezing those shoulders. Using your eyes and see if you can get the elbows to move equal speed, equal distance. As we change direction with the circles, noticing if one elbow is coming higher than the other. So if you pause, I'm going to get these guys level. So go to full extension, take the elbows out, the shoulder socket, and then relax. So you see how that evens it out? Now then relax it just a tiny bit, extension, no tension, but feeling that you've got to work this side a little harder so that this guy's not pulling the heavy weight. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah, so when they come to one another, they're not hitting like this, but they're hitting evenly. And then stopping with the backwards circles, elbows on the floor to shoulders height. Exhale to bring the elbows to touch. Inhale to take the elbows to the floor. Exhale to bring the elbows to touch. Inhale to take the elbows to the floor. And just working that connection. Resting whenever you need to rest. You can always bring those feet to the floor at any time. Feeling the weight even on the 2 sides of the pelvis. Always a nice place to glance at the knees and notice if the knees are level, which they totally are, which is awesome. Noticing if your neck starts to twist one direction or the other. A lot of us tend to start to look to the right. We want to keep that neutral neck, so if we closed our eyes and opened our eyes, we'd be looking straight up at the ceiling. And then elbows to the floor, keep the elbows to the floor. Exhale to bring the elbows to the side ribs. Inhale to take the elbows up to a shoulder's height. Exhale, elbows to the side ribs. Inhale, elbows up as high as you can without rotating the arm inside the shoulder socket. Good. Try to keep those thighs together, try and keep those knees together, try and keep those feet nice and active. Keep pulling the stick towards the kneecaps, keep moving the hip flexors towards the butt. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block, front thigh to back thigh, calf lifts up to shin. And then go to those hamstrings and think about moving the hamstrings from the backs of the knees to the place where your butt meets the backs of the thighs. And then take the elbows up at a shoulder's height. Keep the elbows at a shoulder's height. Let's release the arms to cactus arms. Let's have our thumbs on the inside, backs and hands on the floor. Try and get rid of the wrinkles in the backs of the wrists. So lengthen the back of the hand away from the forearm to get rid of any wrinkles in the wrist if possible. If you feel like you need a little bit of support for the backs of the arms, let me know. And then think about backhanding. I like to visualize I've got elastic bands around my forearms and I'm pulling at those elastic bands. Make sure you can shake your head for no. So if you can make fists, yeah, and then try and root the backs of the hands down so that you're using the arms. There we go. And then pulling them apart. And then both arms at 90 degrees. There you go. Nice. So if you can, we're not going to force it, just see. Yeah, there you go. If you can. You see if it's right in there. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of core work here with our stick, with our arms where they are. Try to keep those thighs nice and close. What's important here is that the knees and the thighs don't come apart. Just a little bit, we're going to exhale to bring the legs to the right. We're going to inhale the legs back up to center. We're going to exhale the legs to the left. Inhaling the legs back up to center. Shoulders are not moving. Knees and feet are remaining connected. And we're just going to go from side to side. Think about the armpits lifting up towards the sky. Eventually the stick may tap from one side to the other. Really thinking about the floating ribs coming to one another, back rib cage rooting into the floor. So priorities are to keep the shoulders down and to keep the knees and the thighs together. And the next time we come down to the right, we're going to go as far to the right as we can, keeping those two alignments, and we're just going to hang out. So shoulders down, knees and feet together, go towards the right. You can tap the stick, but then lift it a little bit so you're hovering, and just hang out. So create that tug of war. Hip flexors are going towards the butt, backs of the knees are going towards the front of the knees. Find the fronts of the ankles and pull the fronts of the ankles towards the heels. So you're creating this internal zigzag inside your legs. So lots of stability there. And then think about pulling not only the femurs into the hip sockets, but then imagine you could take your mind's eye, bring your hands to the backs of those hamstrings, and pull them from the backs of the knees towards your butt. And then imagine you could slide the calves towards the heels. So the backs of the hamstrings are pulling in towards the femur. The front of the thigh is pushing forward towards the femur. The inner thighs and outer thighs are squeezing the femur. So the leg is being squeezed by the muscles. The bone is being squeezed by the muscles. Good. Everybody feel like they're kind of getting that? If you're lost, let me know. And then nice and slow, let's bring it up, taking our time. And then just as slowly, we're going to lower to the other side. Shoulders don't move. Find the ribs. Floating ribs come to one another. Back rib cage roots down into the floor. Think about elastic bands around your forearms. Reach through the forearms. Root the forearms down. Really good ribs, Linda. And then find those legs. So it's front thigh to back thigh to front thigh. Inner thighs pull apart, outer thighs squeeze in, backs of the knees move towards the kneecaps, hip flexors move towards the butt, fronts of the ankles towards the heels, no wrinkles in those heels, squeezing the thighs, squeezing the ankles, squeezing the knees. Breathing. Try not to let the ribs pop. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, we're going to bring those legs back to center nice and slow. We're going to place the stick beside us. We're going to bring the feet down onto the floor one at a time. Soles of the feet are going to clap, knees are going to come apart, and we're going to find a neutral pelvis where the pubic bone hip bones are level. Squeezing the feet, push into your elbows, lengthen your ribs away from your pelvis, and then just let your shoulders relax on the floor. So let's see if we can find those same connections here. So imagine you've got a piece of paper between your feet, you're squeezing that piece of paper. See if you can take your toes gently and evenly away from one another. Without the legs moving, because the feet are nice and active, think front thigh to back thigh, think calf to shin. It's the action that you're going to straighten your legs, but your legs don't straighten because the legs are so active. Then go to your inner groins and lengthen from inner groin to inner knee. Thinking about the inner knees moving down towards the outer knees and towards the floor. Outer knees pull towards the outer trochanter, that kind of big fat bit on the outside of the femur. Usually we find it sort of in our outer hips where our thighs meet our butt, and we pull those outer trochanters to one another. You'll feel the anal sphincter kind of contract, and then you can draw it up. And then see if you can think about the hip flexors moving towards the butt, the backs of the knees moving towards the fronts of the knees, the fronts of the ankles moving towards the heels. Get rid of any wrinkles in your heels. And then see if you can inject those hamstrings. Pull those hamstrings up to meet the front thigh, and then inject those hamstrings towards the sit bones. Did anybody not find at least a little bit more stretch doing that? We did? Okay, good. Let's place one hand between the belly and the ribs, one hand between the ribs and the chest. Try and keep the action of the legs. Big exhale to empty. And then once you're empty, belly's going to fill, ribs are going to fill, chest is going to fill. And then we're going to empty chest, then ribs, then belly. So nice gentle waves of breath up and down the spine. Continuously focusing on your body from the inside, focusing on your breath. Just let me know. I can grab you a couple extra blocks as we take 5 more breaths here. Then when those 5 breaths are complete, we're going to take our hands to the outer thighs, we're going to fire up our feet, we're going to draw our knees together, we're going to roll off to the side, right arm becomes a pillow for the head, nice inhale to bring ourselves up. So we're going to go to the wall, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So everybody should have their block, their strap, and their stick. I'm going to sink in on your mat. Sure. All right, so we're not going to start with our legs right at the wall. We're going to start with a 90-degree angle. So we're stacking our joints. So our ankles are as high as our knees are in line with our hips. A lot of us want to imprint here where our pubic bone is higher than our hip bones. And if we can't get a neutral pelvis here, then we move our butt away from the wall so that we can find that neutral pelvis, because that neutral pelvis is magic. All right, we're then going to put the block between our thighs. We're going to think about the inner thighs dropping the block, the outer thighs squeezing a block. Thighs, the front of them are going towards the wall. The backs of the thighs are coming away from the wall. So you're creating like this squeezing of the femurs, okay? We're then going to straighten both legs but keep a bend in the knee, and we're going to think about injecting those hamstrings. We're going to take this stick and we're going to put it on our hip flexors, and we're going to think about the hip flexors going towards the butt. We're going to find it here first, to really find that. If you can't work your legs here, then you're probably never really going to open up your hamstrings properly. You got to be able to find it here first, right? Before we start to get super technical. We're then going to go to individual intense leg stretches, so we keep all those connections. We're going to put a strap over here. We don't start here because odds are you're going to imprint. You start here or here. I think all of us might start here actually. We find the back of the knee coming forward. We're going to pull it in. We walk the hands up the strap. Maybe we pull it in. Maybe we straighten this leg. And then we find that mini bend. We think about pulling from the back of the knee towards the butt. At no point am I imprinting. Right? Like, la, 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 but I get nothing there except for I'm going to piss off my hamstrings, okay? Whereas if I stay here, I find the connections. Eventually, I can go nice and deep, but I'm honoring my hamstrings. I'm also starting to work my calves. I'm firing at my feet. There's not going to be any injury in the long run, right? Does that make sense? So let's give that a shot. So we've got our legs bent to a 90-degree angle. Feet are at the wall, block between the thighs. Perfect. Yeah, no problem there. So your knees are bent and you're creating a 90-degree angle with your legs. Block between the thighs, nice and close to the pubic bone. Ankles are as high as the knees. Turn these feet up just a little bit. And feet are at hips distance apart, so 2 fists. There you go. Stick at the hip flexors. So take your stick and just put your stick in your hip flexors, just like we had it before. Good. Let's really think about pushing the feet into the wall. A little bit more narrow. Push the feet into the wall. Lift just your toes up. Just your toes. And then for fun, just imprint your back and feel what it feels like to imprint your back. And then take your pubic bone away from your navel, front thigh, back thigh, calf to shin, and then find a neutral pelvis. So your pubic bone is level, so you want to go the other way. Do you know what neutral pelvis is? Yeah, a little bit more. So I want you to move your pubic bone to the wall. Opposite of what you're doing. Yeah, so you feel that? Good, I want to keep that. Good. Think floating ribs to one another, to the floor. Keep the toes lifted with the heels at the wall. Great. So let's find all those connections. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. The front thighs are moving towards the wall. The backs of the thighs are moving away from the wall. The front thighs are moving towards the knee. The back of the thighs moving towards the butt. Your inner heels are dropping the imaginary block. Your outer heels are squeezing the imaginary block. Toes are slightly lifted. Inject your femurs. And then keeping all of those connections, double check that you're straight. So lift your nose. Yeah, you know I'm coming for you.
You're straight. No, that's me.
And then when you know you're straight, so we're going to move you this way. Right there, perfect. When you know you're straight, straighten out both legs and dig your heels into the wall. Find a bend in the knees. So dig your heels into the wall, drag your heels into the wall, think back to the knees coming towards the kneecaps. You got it. Back to lift in a knee. Back to the knees towards the kneecaps. Hip flexors towards the butt. Fronts of the ankles towards the heels. So we're creating this zigzag of energy up and down our legs. Find your big toe mounds and get your big toe mounds as high as your baby toe mounds. Does anybody not feel an effort here? We're all getting this? Good. So this action is how we're actually going to start to release our hips and our hamstrings. All right, so we are still, your body straight. You feel how this hip's a little bit higher. Right there. Perfect. Yeah, right there. Nice. Dig those heels in. Try to keep those feet at hips distance apart if you can, noticing if one foot has a tendency to wander more than the other. Keep moving the backs of the knees towards the fronts of the knees and generously bend those knees. Good. Watch the imprinting. Now take the stick into the palms of your hands. The palms are going to face the wall. The thumbs are going to be on the same side of the stick. Hands are shoulders distance apart. So thumbs on the same side of the stick. Yeah, and then try and get rid of any wrinkles so that you really find the base of the thumb and the index. Good. Get rid of any wrinkles at the back of the wrist. Bam. Exhale to take the stick towards the thighs. Inhale to take the stick towards the floor. Exhale to take the stick towards the thighs. Inhale to take the stick towards the floor. Watching our tendencies and really trying to get rid of those motorcycle wrists. Keep digging your heels in, sliding your heels towards the floor. Keep that bend in the knees. Keep that neutral pelvis. Not going past the point that's appropriate for you. If you know you're an elbow hyperextender, you know what you gotta do. You gotta bend those elbows. If you know that you go to extension with tension, you know you gotta pull those arm bones back into the shoulder socket so you can always shake your head for no. We're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to take the stick overhead to wherever we can go and just hang out. And then we're going to look for symmetry. So noticing if one hand is closer to the floor than the other. Or a little bit. So if I touched your pubic bone, you see how you're going towards the window. So we're going to straighten it out a little bit. So believe it or not, that is straight. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
There we go. And then that might even out your arms, which it did. Nice. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Not touching down if you can help it. Great place to notice if one arm works harder than the other. Does anybody find this really easy? Okay. Stuff that looks easy really becomes very hard. Watch that neck. You feel that distance?
Yeah. Was I putting on this side?
I moved you a little.
Interesting, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel so well
Admitting so many things, right? Just knowing our habits so we can look at them in life. And then nice inhale to bring those arms up, nice and slow. You're going to place the stick beside you. You're going to bend your knees back to a 90-degree angle. You're going to place the block beside you. So knees are bent, feet are to the wall. You got a 90-degree angle. We're going to take the strap over just the sole of the right foot. I'm going to take that right heel back to the wall. So right heel is at the wall, right leg is straight. Find a neutral pelvis. So get out of that habit of imprinting the low back. Push the left foot into the wall, lift the toes. And then find the backs of the knees and move the backs of the knees towards the front of the knees. Dig the heel into the wall and physically bend that knee by moving the back of the knee towards the front of the knee. And then think front thigh, back thigh to counterbalance that back of the knee coming forward. So physically bend that knee. And then with that bent knee, really thinking about pulling the back of the hamstring in towards the body, injecting it towards the femur, and sliding it down towards your butt. If you're digging your heel in, you want to bend the knee just a little bit, and then you want to think about the front thigh moving towards the wall, the back of the thigh moving away from the wall, and then you want to think about the front thigh moving towards the knee, and the back of the thigh moving towards the butt. Does anybody feel like they're not getting that and needs help? We call that injecting the hamstring. And then once we find that injection of the hamstring, if we can keep the pelvis, we can start to take that leg away from the wall, keeping that really nice connection of pulling the back of the leg towards the butt. You can just bring it to wherever it gets to. You can walk your hands up the strap if you like. Don't go past 90 to start with. Take a few breaths, and then if you want to go past 90, you can. So do you feel how you're really imprinting your back here? So that's a habit, which is fine, and that gets you places for sure. I'm giving you a different recipe. The recipe I'm giving you is a nice thing to learn, and you can use it or not use it when you leave. It's all good, but I think you're really going to like it. So Keep this leg straight, kick your heel into my hand, bend your knee. Keep pushing into my hand, but bend your knee. So you feel how you're really opening up your hamstring here? Right. Mm-hmm.
And I've got an arch in my back. Is that okay?
That's what you want.
Oh.
Yeah. So your spine is meant to have a lumbar curve.
Yes.
And so when we imprint that lumbar curve and pretend it doesn't exist, like we do when we're driving our car, like when we do we're sitting at the desk, it leads to back pain. And that's one of the things in yoga we want to avoid is low back pain and hamstring injuries.
Okay.
So what I'm teaching you helps to move away from that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's new, so it's going to take you a little bit of time. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. And then just push your foot into me.
Oh, thank
Yeah. So it's counterintuitive.
Yes.
For some reason our mind thinks, I'm trying to get my leg to the floor, but you're not. You're trying to get your leg to the wall.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. And you feel the difference.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Totally. It is. It's interesting. You need to bend the knee to get it stretched. And then if you want to, you're not going to, if you wanted to, you can straighten out that left leg. Do what you're doing. Yeah. And dig the left heel into the wall and find the mini bend to the knee, you stay. And then really think of a stick in your hip flexors, particularly the right hip flexor, and move the imaginary hip flexor stick towards the wall. Move the imaginary back of the knee stick towards the kneecap. Move the imaginary stick at the front of the ankles towards the heels. So find that zigzag. The zigzag is big, right? If we can find that zigzag, it's like an aha thing. Does anybody feel like they need help finding the zigzag?
I do.
Who said I do?
So,
Gotcha, I'll be there in a jiff. So first move your ankle towards the heel, which you started to get. So kick in a knee, ankle towards the heel. So I want you to go this way. Yeah, that's ankle towards the heel. Back of the knee towards kneecap. You're starting to get it, eh? You feel it? Now hip flexor towards butt. And then, once you find the zigzag, you move the back of the hamstring towards the butt, the back of the calf towards the knee. You keep the zigzag, and you can straighten out the leg a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, it could be a little bit. Okay, so front of the ankle towards the heel. This one you know. Push into my hand. So front of the ankle, think of a stick, go towards the heel, right? And then back of the knee towards kneecap. So you see that difference right away? And then hip flexor towards the butt. Now try and find all three at the same time, which is tricky. Back of the knee to front of the knee, front of the ankle towards back of the ankle, hip flexor towards the butt. So you feel the zigzag, bang, 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 and then lengthen to straighten. But keep the zigzag. There you go. That's good. Yeah. Let's see if you can find it on the other leg. Let's just go 4 more breaths here. You're good.
Okay, I can feel it. I feel it especially when I get that one.
Yeah, this one's
That's
huge
like
for you.
here all the way down.
Yeah. So dig into me just a little bit. Yeah.
And then
This digs into me here.
yeah.
This digs this way. And then you get this tug of war.
Yeah, that's exactly where I feel it. It was so helpful, Michelle, pushing the stick into those places.
I find those sticks so like.
Because I finally got it.
Yeah.
Where you want me to push.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it really, I know, I found that really helped me too. I just discovered that a wee while ago. All right, release the strap, bend your knee, interlace your finger over the shin, and just draw that leg to you for a half hinge movement. But find your imaginary sticks. Okay, so you can still have one foot on the wall or one foot on the floor, doesn't matter. But with this bent right knee, visualize a stick from the front of your ankle and move it towards your heel. No wrinkles in the heels. Visualize a stick at the back of the knee, move it towards the front of the knee. Visualize a stick at your hip flexors, move it towards your butt. Take your pubic bone and your right sit bone towards the wall. Hands pull down, find calf lift up. Inject your hamstring, lengthen your quad. Find your neutral pelvis. And just breathe. Big, beautiful breaths. Nice, you're starting to get it. You feel the difference, eh? So then if you went to your habit, which is just letting this go, you see how you get less of a stretch then?
Yeah.
Perfect, that's what I want you to find. And even if you just find that one little thing today, it's a great thing to take home with you. All right, let's do the other side. So, let's go back to where we started with a block between our thighs, a stick in our hip flexor, So legs are not quite straight, but almost straight. Heels are at the wall. We're digging the heels into the wall. We're finding our neutral pelvis. You could have the stick in your hip flexors and move your hip flexors towards your butt, lengthening your pubic bone away from the navel. Some of us may have the length to put our stick on our kneecaps and think about lifting the backs of the knees towards the front of the knees. And then use the heels at the wall to think about the fronts of the ankles moving towards the heels. Find that zigzag of energy. Bend those knees. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block, hip flexors towards butt, pubic bone and sit bones towards the wall. Straighten out those legs a bit. Heels dig into the wall and pull towards the floor. Calves move towards the shins. Inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. Neutral pelvis. So a little bit more pubic bone towards the wall. Knead it. Other way. So yeah, there you go. Nice. And then once you've found those connections, keep those connections. Bend your legs to a 90. Remove the block. Place the stick beside you. Take the left foot into a strap. And take the left heel to the wall. Find that nice neutral pelvis. Push the right foot into the wall, lift the toes off the wall, but the rest of the foot is rooted. And then find the same action on the left foot. Left heel digs in. Pull the left heel down towards the floor, and then imagine your sticks. Stick on the front of the ankle, moves towards the heel, so the heel moves into the wall. Stick at the back of the knee, moves towards the front of the knee. Stick at the hip flexor, moves towards the butt. Keep that action. Then find inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block, inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. The front of the thigh moves to the wall and lengthens towards the knee. The back of the thigh, the hamstrings, pulls towards the femur bone and slides towards the butt. Lengthen the calf away from the back of the knee, and then see if you can start to bring that left leg in a little bit. Walking your hands up the strap, keeping those connections, and just seeing where it gets to. Back of the leg. Inject your hamstring towards your butt, lengthen your calf towards your heel. Find those zigzags. If anybody feels like they need help, let me know. Bang, bang. Yeah. Bang, bang.
That's the one with you.
Yeah, this one's tricky too. Yeah, there we go. There comes the shit.
Comes the shit again.
Yeah. And hip flex over here. Yeah. Breathing. Keep injecting those hamstrings. Think neutral pelvis. You're nailing that pelvis. It's good. So ankle towards heel. Yeah. Back knee in front of the knee. Yeah. Hip flexor to butt. Move into my ankle. Yeah. There you go. And then keep that, right? And then to straighten, you just move these. Yeah, you feel that good. So really a lot of stability in the mobility. Keep injecting the femurs. Keep breathing.
Does it look like I'm getting motion?
Yeah, does it feel like you're getting it?
Yeah. Like it's trust her.
Totally. Totally. If you feel it, it's working.
It feels good.
Yeah, well, it's great. You've got a bent knee and you're getting a good old workout. Yeah. Sometimes we have to feel like we're like in the visualization of it, looks like we're doing less, but we're actually getting more, right? 'Cause it's very easy to straighten your leg.
The thing I feel is the stability. It feels
That's
good
what
to
you
feel
want.
that stability.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You want stability more than you really want mobility, right? Because mobility without stability equals pain. In most bodies that I've met.
Are we going past 90 now?
Yeah, you can, at your own pace. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. Really finding those connections. Digging those heels in. And then when you're ready, release the strap. Bend that left knee, interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right, over the left shin. Keeping your ankle, knee, and hip in a nice straight line, trying to keep the neutral pelvis. Right leg can be straight or bent, but try and do your sides the same. And then use the resistance. Your hands pull down as your leg lifts up. And then find your hip flexor sticks on both legs. Hip flexor sticks move towards butt. Back of the knee sticks move towards kneecap. Fronts of the ankle sticks move towards heels. So that's what we're calling the zigzag in your legs. And just breathing. I'm trying to save my voice. Still we have the vise on the thighs. Still we have the vise on the heels. Front thigh, back thigh, calf to shin. Take a couple more big breaths here. And then release. Put both feet onto the floor, bend both knees, everybody rolls off to the right, and then let's look at what's next. All right. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on the external rotator, but we're going to look at it briefly. So number 4 pose, can I use your mat again, do you mind? So we're going to go back to our 90. We're going to find all these same connections. FYI, this is all standing poses. It's the exact same connections for standing poses. So one of the things I want to start seeing is we tend to shorten our spine, right? So you see it a lot with popped ribs, you see a bulge on this side and a shortening on the back body. So the only way that I know of to really sort of start working with that is to find your pubic bone, hip bones level, to push into your elbows, and then literally lengthen your ribs away from your pelvis, relax your neck and shoulders, lengthen your head. So we're not looking to that point where we're like, right? The shoulders still have to relax so you can shake your head, but we physically use the elbows and the head to move the spine away from the pelvis. If my pelvis isn't rooted, again, it's really hard to find length from something that's not stable, right? It's hard to bounce when you don't have a floor to bounce from. And then from here, we think neutral pelvis. We're going to bring this leg in to number 4 pose. So again, there's this thing in our minds, just like the intense leg stretches. Our mind thinks my foot has to come to the floor, but in reality, my foot should be going to the wall. It's the same in our thread the needles, okay? So we're going to find this. We are going to find a neutral pelvis. Most of us are going to be like this, right? Where our right hip drops, our right hip shortens. So if that's happening to us, we move away from the wall. We want to keep a neutral pelvis. We're going to fire up our feet, and then we're going to use all our awareness and intention to actually move our legs physically to the wall and find all of those connections. Some of us can flex the foot, just lifting the heel, okay? If we're feeling super duper open and we can literally keep a neutral pelvis, we can move in a little bit. But if we can't find the pelvis moving in a little bit, then we actually come away from the wall, right? So it's not like this, it's like this. Everything's moving to the wall, find all those connections. We'll do a little bit of arm work here. All right, so when you're ready, come to the wall, give yourself as much space as you need to have your number 4 pose and a neutral pelvis. So some of us are going to be a lot further away from the wall. Some of us will be closer. But pubic bone, hip bones are level. Right hip is not lower than left hip. We've got no wrinkles in our heels. If you're imprinting into your low back, then give yourself more space. Get rid of all those heel wrinkles. And then one of the tricks is to take the ankle on the outside. Exactly. And then to keep the knee safe, you've got to really fire up the heel and the foot. So I don't want to see any wrinkles in those heels. So you feel how you're imprinting your back. So we're going to put this back here and you're going to move away from the wall. Wiggle, wiggle, keep wiggling, keep wiggling, keep wiggling, keep wiggling. Now, pubic bone towards the wall. Now focus on your pelvis. Try not to let your pelvis move. We're going to pivot at the hip, nod at the knee, and we're going to hook that. You feel how your pubic bone lifted?
Yeah.
Take your pubic bone to the wall. Take your pubic bone to the wall, like that. You feel the difference in the hip stretch? Yeah. So one is targeting where you're tight. The other way, when you imprint, you're avoiding where you actually need to go. And then we're going to fire up this foot like that. So foot to the wall, toes active. Can you feel that difference?
What do you mean by active?
Active, so you're pushing into it. Push into my hand.
Is that way?
Push into this block. Push, push. Then move the knee this way. Yeah, keep pushing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Nice and active. Good stuff. So if you've got your stick handy, you can put your stick where your hip flexors are. I'm really thinking about moving the hip flexors to the wall. This is gorgeous. I'm just going to move it this way, but your foot is fantastic. So take your stick. Ask yourself, are my hips level? Number one, can I move my hip flexors to the wall? Now take your right knee, move it to the wall without your hips moving. You see how you moved your hips? How do I keep my right hip from going to the wall when I take my right knee to the wall? Anybody? Inject your left femur. Hallelujah. I heard it over there. Right? So I like to visualize I've got a heavy sandbag on my left knee and it's pulling my left femur into my left hip socket, and then I can move my right knee to the wall without my whole pelvis moving. I also think about sitting my butt into a chair. You get that? Is anybody not getting a hip stretch? Good. And it's very humbling, yeah? You know, we can pull the legs to us or we can find it in a place where we actually have to work, right? And then lift the sole of the foot but keep the heel at the wall if you want to go deeper. All right, so do you feel how you're totally not straight?
I feel really off and I can't just do it.
So first of all, look at yourself in relation to the wall. So lift your head and look at your stick in relation to the wall. Use your peripheral vision, look at you in relation to your mat. Do you see how you're at an angle? Your stick is at an angle from the wall, and your torso is not in line with your mat. Yeah. So first thing, use what you got. You got a stick. So start stage one, both feet at the wall. Yeah. I'm gonna find straight first. Using your mat and using your stick if you need to. So now let the stick go, interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left hand, right up to the webbing. Don't lose the pelvis. Flip your palms, extend the palms up towards the sky. Pull the wrists apart, squeeze those pinkies. Don't let those pinkies release. Hands are right over the shoulders. See if you can shake your head for no. And then for fun, lift those hands higher and notice how you can't shake your head for no. Visualize a tray of margaritas on your palms, lift those margaritas high. Notice how your neck hates that, right? But then let the margaritas come as close to the floor as you can without losing the straightness of the arms, and notice how you don't like to shake your head like that either. So do a couple shoulder push-ups where you take your hands in and out of the body, so arms in and out of the body, and then find that place of extension where you do not have angel wings or a valley between your shoulders, and you can shake your head for no. Stop with your chin in neutral, and then very slowly, keeping straight arms and a neutral pelvis, start to take your pinky fingers towards the floor. Don't go to that place of tension in the neck, and try not to lose those pinky fingers if you can. Nice. Just move it so you know how I see it. See the knees come out of alignment with the hips. So as soon as I do that, you feel what you're missing, eh? Yeah. Then I'm going to let you go. You're going to hold it as much as you can. Good. Breathing. Much better. Much, much better, but we've overdone it now. So if you sit up, right, do you see your mat? You see how the one shoulder is closer to the side of the mat? You say you're not straight on your mat?
I didn't know it.
Yeah, it's just learning how to see it. So first start with your feet straight, find a neutral pelvis and straighten your torso. Opposite way. There you go. Now lift your nose. Is your nose in line with your navel? Is your navel in line with your pubic bone? Is your pubic bone in line with the center of your heels? And then come back down. You can also use a stick, right? Because you practice a lot at home. Straights and vertical. Yeah. Good, especially because you do so much repetitive strength stuff. Now keep straight. So you're not going to move the pelvis and then go into the pelvis.
Thank you.
Yeah, and today your homework is learning to get straight. Just physically.
I was just going to say.
I don't want you to be straight in any way mentally. There you go, you feel that difference, right? Yeah, I love this one. Nice, and then interlace your fingers with your palms, find extension, no tension, and into it.
I feel very comfortable. It's so interesting.
I know.
Thank you.
Think about how much you do with your right arm.
Yeah.
So you just keep
The
going like
awareness
this.
is all. Yeah. That's more intense.
So think about getting rid of the wrinkles in your heel. So not moving the hip, keep the hip. Yeah, so see that.
Oh.
Keep your knees safe. In those wrinkles, creep into that right heel It just, our knees don't like it as much as if there's no wrinkles. Let's go 5 more breaths here. It's in relation to how the tibia moves, the kneecap and the tibia move together. It's very technical, but I won't bore you with all those details. Think about the pubic bone going towards the wall. Yeah. Find your sticks, your imaginary sticks. Let's take it to the next level. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. Inner knees moving towards outer knees. Calves move towards shin, front thigh, back thigh. Inject your hamstrings. Lengthen your quads. Does anybody not get more of a stretch doing that? Did someone have trouble finding it? We all found it? Speak up if you didn't get it.
I do have a question about,
Mm-hmm.
there's often this weird, like, rubbery latch feeling on this half of my knee.
A rubbery.
And almost like a latch feeling, and it does release, but it's like a really odd.
Is it painful?
It's,
So if it's painful, what do? You know what you do?
no, it's
do
not
less.
painful, it's just a
Yeah.
really odd feeling.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get rid of that?
Practice, 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 practice. Find strength.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody has something they're working
Well,
on.
that feels better.
Yeah.
What do you should do?
I moved your ankle over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
So you have this
That's okay.
here, and I moved this over
Okay.
here. The ankle should hook on the outside.
that's
So
okay.
think lotus and half lotus. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was easy.
Hip flexor towards the wall. This one. This hip flexor to the wall. This butt towards the wall. There you go. And then drop your foot to the wall. If you lifted your foot, nice inhale to bring those arms up and over. I like to actually place my right hand on my right knee to remind my right knee that it is a hinge. I draw the right knee towards my navel, pivoting at the hip. I uncross the leg safely, and then I'm going to straighten out the back of the knee just to let blood and oxygen flush, bring it back to neutral. It would be lovely if that entire time we didn't have any wrinkles on our heels. And then bring that left foot to the wall. Take a little mini break there. Make sure you're straight. So are my ankles in line with my knees, in line with my hips? Is my nose in line with my pubic bone? Am I in relation to the sides of my mat? Yada, yada, yada. Are my straight? And then I try and keep my neutral pelvis. I try and keep my heels. As I draw that left leg to me, if I'm nervous, I can hold that left knee to make sure I'm pivoting at the hip to hook the left ankle on the outside of the right knee. Think about that knee going towards the wall. Think both legs going towards the wall. Keep that neutral pelvis. Take your stick and put your stick back in your hip flexors, and then find out if you're straight. So this hip is closer to me than that hip. So that hip flexor, does that make sense? Yeah.
That's not tight.
There you go. Nice. Get rid of all those wrinkles in the heel. So activate that foot. Yeah, bam. Yeah. And then you feel how you're imprinting. So you either have to move away from the wall or lengthen your pubic bone. You're getting it. There. And you feel that difference right away. Nice. And the legs move to the wall without moving the hips. You feel how that hip moved?
Yeah.
Don't let the hip move. So you pull this in. Yeah, there you go. And it's a lot of info. If you get a little bit, it's a great amount to get. Breathing. Nice, Linda. Hips are great. Just move the torso teensy a little bit this way. Yeah, just a tiny bit. And if you want to lift the sole of the foot and keep the heel at the wall, go for it. I love to do this routine in a sauna. And then see how that knee's coming in. So it tells me I just have to pull this femur in a little bit, and you're going to work it to the wall. It gets you right where you got. And then when you're ready, you're going to interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right. Flip your palms up towards the sky, pull the wrists apart, and do a couple shoulder push-ups here, keeping those arms straight, and just learn how you can move that humerus bone, that upper arm bone, in and out of the shoulder sockets. So palms to the sky. Now watch the pinkies and the ring fingers, they get lazy. And then once you've found extension, no tension, you can move your neck. If you don't have angel wings in your back body, there's no valley between your shoulder blades, then you can slowly start to bring the arms down towards the floor. Keeping the pelvis, keeping the breath, and you're totally straight and cool. The only thing that's not quite is the neck, and it's minute. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe go into the wall.
I'm so glad.
This is, yeah. Well, and it's interesting because you can sit lotus and you can sit half lotus, but it maybe isn't doing
I don't.
good.
I don't.
Yeah. We gotta find that stability.
What is your hand on my hip doing?
I'm injecting your femur
Okay,
into your
thank
hip
you.
socket to keep you from dropping into this hip. Does that make sense?
So you put more weight into this?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna let go and you're gonna pull the femur in. Yeah, so I'm doing two things. I'm pulling your femur in and I'm working your hip flexor towards your butt. Just keeps you
That's
level.
helpful.
Yeah. And neutral pelvis isn't something that, like, we don't have it in the standing poses. We don't have it necessarily when we're doing back bends and stuff, but it's the energy, the muscles that keep our low back safe, right? And in my opinion, it keeps our knees nice and healthy as we do the standing poses too. So this is gonna be right there. Nice. And I'm gonna cha-ching these ribs down. There you go. Bang. And the interesting thing about this is it looks so easy, but this will kick anybody's butt. So if we're doing like an all levels class, we're teaching people of all levels, you know, you can have someone that's amazing at handstands, and this is literally going to kick their butts. And you could have somebody that's never done a yoga class before, and they can do it. Which is always a nice little trick to have in your bag, right? Occasionally with certain type of hip issues you can't do it, but they are rare. Let's just go 5 more breaths here, really thinking of all those connections. Vice on the thighs, vice on the heels. Right. Inject your hamstrings. Lengthen the pubic bone towards the wall. Move your sticks. So the front of the ankle moves towards the heel, the back of the knee moves towards the kneecap, the hip flexors move towards the butt, the pubic bone lengthens towards the wall. 5 more breaths. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, if you've lifted your foot comes back to the wall. Nice inhale to bring your arms back, up and over. Flip your palms, release your fingers. Left hand comes to left knee to remind it that it's a hinge. We draw the left knee towards our navel, pivoting at the hip to uncross the leg. And just open up the back of the knee. Bring that knee back to a neutral position. And then bend that knee, bring both feet to the floor. If you need to wiggle away from the wall, do. And let's go back to Baddha Konasana or cobbler pose, where the soles of the feet are clapping and the knees are apart. Neutral pelvis. Once you find your neutral pelvis, push into your elbows and lengthen the back ribs away from the neutral pelvis. Lengthen the back of the skull away from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Then find those active feet. Get rid of the wrinkles in your heels. Find the question mark of the foot, pushing evenly into the opposite question mark of the foot. Lengthen from inner groins to inner knees. Draw the outer knees down towards the floor. Draw the outer knees back towards the outer trochanter's. Draw the outer trochanter's to one another. Think inner thighs dropping the block. Think outer thighs squeezing the block. One more time. Inner thighs go to the floor. Outer thighs energetically lift away from the floor, and then slide the outer line of the leg from the outer knee towards the outer trochanters. And then once you find that, see if you can inject your hamstrings. Close your eyes and just focus on keeping that gentle activity of the legs. If you need to support your thighs, let me know. And as soon as we did that, everybody's hips leveled out. Nice work, everyone. Find that beautiful wave of breath up and down the spine. So big exhale, and then once you're empty, belly's gonna fill, ribs are gonna fill, chest is gonna fill. Then we're gonna empty chest, then we're gonna empty ribs, then we're gonna empty belly. So nice, gentle waves of breath up and down the spine. So now I want you to straighten out your torso. You know what chair is a chair too. Let's take 5 more waves of breath, really focusing on what you've learned, what can you integrate. If we just pick up one connection per class, one little detail, and then we do our best to memorize that detail in class, and then we practice that detail for the next week in whatever we do, then we have that detail often for the rest of our life. And then the next class, we pick up another detail. So just think of one thing and try and memorize it. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, draw those knees together. I'm going to roll off to the right side. Right arm's going to become a pillow for our head. Left palm in front of the chest. Nice inhale and arm strength to push ourselves up. So if we're not on a double mat or like a super cushy mat, we want a second mat, most likely. I believe in comfort. Who else? Everybody should have 2 blocks. That makes sense. There we go. Right. So we're all going to start with 2 blocks. Let's actually just warm up our wrists first. So tabletop position. Let's have our hands a shoulder's distance apart. Sorry, that was way loud. So our outer wrist is in line with our outer shoulder. Unless that feels too narrow, then you go wider, but that's kind of most people. Index fingers are going to point straight forward. We're going to spread our fingers evenly away from that index finger without force. We want to have our knees right underneath our hips so our thighs are creating a 90-degree angle up and down. And then we're going to tuck our toes. We're going to get a really good grip on those toes. So one of the best ways to open up the hamstrings is to open up your feet. So there's this superficial back line, starts in our toes, goes all the way up the back of our body, including our hamstring, and injects into our eyes. And if we can kind of massage that superficial back line where it begins, it's hard to massage inside your skull, so we're left with the toes, then it's really helpful. So just give those toes a good grip. And then once you've got a good grip, reach back, grab your whatever toes are not connecting with the floor, and see if you can get them to connect. Good. Then go back to your hands. So if we feel our wrists, we push more into the fingers and the palms. If we still feel our wrists, we move our hands forward. We should never feel our knees, we should never feel our wrists, ever, right? If that's the case, you let me know. We figure out how not to feel them. Push into the fingers, push into the entire circumference of the palm. The tendency is that we lift through the base of the thumb and the index, and that is not a good tendency for wrist health. So we want to make sure that you can't slide your finger between the base of the thumb and the index. Then we're going to exhale to curl the spine, thinking angry kitty. We're going to inhale, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. Exhale to curl the spine, thinking angry kitty. And then inhaling, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. And just going back and forth. Watching the elbows, making sure that we're not hyperextending if that's our tendency. It's an external rotation of the upper arm, it's an internal rotation of the lower arm. We push firmly through the base of the thumb and the index, and we think about a mini micro bend in our elbows if we're a hyperextender. Let's go back and forth 3 more times. When those 3 times are complete, we're going to find a nice straight spine. We're going to do a couple shoulder push-ups here, keeping those nice solid arms. We're going to move the humerus bone in and out of the shoulder socket. Noticing when we move the humerus bone all the way into the shoulder sockets, we get 2 big kind of like angel wings popping out of our back. We get a big valley between our shoulder blades. We don't want that because we can't really move our neck comfortably. Noticing when we push too far away that we can't move our neck. We want to push the floor away just enough so we don't get a valley between our shoulder blades. There's no popping there, or we can move our head back and forth. Keep that connection. You're going to place your stick in your hip flexors. You're going to take your hip flexors back, and you're going to slide your hands forward. It's not about getting your head to the floor. It's about aligning your ears with your shoulders. You want to move the stick as far away from your wrists as you can. So arms are straight. Think externally rotating the upper arm. Think internally rotating the lower arm. Stick is moving towards the butts. Imaginary stick at the back of the knee is moving towards the kneecaps. Fronts of the ankle stick is moving towards the heels. Stick in your armpits is pulling towards your ears. Stick in your elbows. The elbow crease is moving towards the elbow bend. Listening to our shoulders, listening to our bodies. This is a fantastic place to stay, especially if we have neck or shoulder stuff. We want to think about lifting our belly, lifting our ribs, and those of us who have shoulders that are happy to come into down dog, think about taking the stick back as you slowly come into your dog with very, very bent knees. Otherwise, just stay in your puppy. Puppies are great with the knees on the floor. That's better for you, the puppy. Yeah.
How do you do that without coughing?
Because you're moving the stick back and you're keeping your knees bent. You're doing your best. And then once you come up to a bent knee 90-degree angle, reconnect with your imaginary stick zigzags. So the fronts of the ankles move towards the heels, the backs of the knees move towards the kneecaps, the hip flexors move towards the butt. Inject your hamstrings. Slide the calves towards the heels. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. And then create a tug of war between the hamstrings and the calves to start to straighten out your legs without dropping your stick. Ears remain with shoulders, moving the skin of the armpits towards the ears. So, until you can straighten this arm, we don't come up. So you come back down again. Yeah. And then just really work your puppy. So you want to try and get those arms straight, really push into the fingers, push into the palms. So here, try and lift your elbows, take your hands wider, nice. And then just work on this rotation. So until this rotation is super easy, you won't even bother with dog, just because it's not worth it. Yeah. Let's see if we've got 5 more breaths left in us here. I think I can. Don't straighten your legs as much. Find the core. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, coming down, taking any child's pose you like. Look at that. You got it. I think I can, right? And then any child's pose you like, exhaling out what you don't need, inhaling in what you do. Exhaling to let go of what no longer serves you, inhaling to draw in the opposite of whatever it is you need to let go of. So finding a mantra and sticking with it. Let's take 10 more breaths here, really sticking with our mantra for every single one of those 10 breaths. And those 10 breaths are complete. Hands underneath the shoulders. Nice inhale to push ourselves up. Back into tabletop position. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. We're going to take our blocks on highest height, as wide as our mat. So we want to really work it here so that our hands are strengthening, so that one day that we can do all these poses that we want to do without our wrists feeling any fatigue. So the best way to strengthen our hands that I know of is to get the entire circumference of the palm to root into that block, and then to reach around with my fingers and try and hold onto that block, right? So for me, it's here, and then I should eventually one day be able to lift the block up without any issue because I'm actually using my fingers that much, okay? And that's how much I use my fingers to keep my wrists happy when I do things, you know, where I lift my feet off the floor. So I'm squeezing the block, I'm pushing my entire circumference of the palms down, my knees and my feet are at hips distance apart, I got a good tucking of my toes. So one of the things we want to look at with these lunges is the wrinkles in the heels. I see this all the time. Right, so I'll show both ways. Yeah. Right, it's the same wrinkly heel, right? Like I see, it's that same not using my foot, and instantly my outer knee is like, ugh, right? So if I find that same foot here, it's like pushing into my question marks, toes lifted. Here, it's no wrinkles, right? It's that same foot centered. My knees really appreciate that, number one, and number two, I'm way more stable. I'm not using my feet. How stable am I? Not so stable. So let's really think of our feet, okay? Keeping our knees nice and stable. So we're going to step the right foot forward. We're going to find a straight line from big toe to heel. We're going to make sure the right shin is at a 90. Exactly. So you got to walk that foot forward until you've got this guy straight, get rid of all the wrinkles in the heels. Find your fingers, find your palms. Keeping the feet at hips distance apart will be very helpful. I then think about pulling my femurs in to square my hips, and then I walk my left knee back as far as I can without twisting my pelvis. Find my blocks, make sure that I do a couple shoulder push-ups so that I have extension, no tension. I can move my neck happily, and then all I have to do is push into that back heel, keeping that back heel straight to lift up. So you wait for me over there, Mike. Yeah, because that shin isn't quite straight, so we're going to drop this knee. And then you got to bring either this foot forward or that foot back. You see how that's not straight? So either this foot comes to here or the back knee moves back. There you go. Now see how this is straight? Good. Now push into that heel. Don't let that move. Good. There you go. So right shin is straight. You see that angle? Yeah, so walk the back foot back. Yeah, there you go. The right shin shouldn't move. Good. So now that we know that the knee is safe, right, we've got no wrinkles in our heels, we're pushing through both feet, let's really find that injection. So, right femur pulls back, left femur pulls forward. Backs of the knees to fronts of the knees, ankles towards heels, hip flexors towards butts. Good, push into the fingers, push into the palms, find a little mini micro bend in that back knee, inject your hamstring. Find a vise on the heels, vise on the thighs, and create a tug-of-war between the calf and the hamstring to straighten out that left leg. Good. And if you want to go further down, you can, but not if it causes the shin to move. If your butt lifts and you're not opening your hips, you're just bringing your hands to the floor. One day when you fit yourself, because you've opened up to the point where your body is really stoked, your armpit and your knee are flush, and often that means you don't have hip or back pain. Push into your fingers, push into your palms, wrists are happy. So think front thigh to back thigh on that left leg and lift that left thigh up. Lift it up. Yeah. And then lengthen the hamstring and the calf in two directions. Take that right hip flexor and pull it back towards your right butt. Right hip flexor back. Good. And then if you're feeling really stable and it does not cause your shin to change, so we're not going to let our butts lift because we're sitting our butts into a chair, front thigh to back thigh. If you can keep the legs, you can bring your hand up onto your knee. And if you can keep the legs, you can start to bring your belly and your ribs back, creating space here. And if you can still keep it, you could bring those arms up. You could even interlace your fingers, bend your elbows, and then think about sticks in the backs of your elbows and lift those elbows up. sit it down. Yeah. And then think, lift my elbows up, take my arms back, take my ribs and my belly back. So Laura, keep that back leg. So for you, it's better to come down and keep that back leg. So do you feel that you're bending the knee and you're dropping the thigh? So find your leg. I want less of a micro bend than that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then pull these ribs back, yeah. So here, it's more about taking the torso back, keeping the legs and taking the torso back, lifting and lengthening the spine up. So 2 more breaths. Nice, you got that. Lift that back thigh up. There you go. And then nice and slow, we're going to bring our hands down. We're going to keep those same connections. We're going to keep that right shin from moving forward or back. And we're going to stretch the left knee back. We're going to point the left foot and we're going to lift the left ankle for an upward dog foot. And then if we found our spacing, we can lean into the hips without the shin moving. If our knee is not far enough back, when we lean into our hips, our knee comes in front of our ankle and our knees don't like that. So making sure the shin is at 90. Good. And again, using the blocks if you need to. Blocks are great. Right femur pulls back, left femur pulls forward, zip your belly, find your ribs. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. Inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. Front thigh to back thigh, think about injecting your hamstrings, calves moving towards heels. You gotta kick like crazy into that left foot, and then maybe the hands can come up. And then you think about the hip flexor, particularly the right hip flexor moving back, and the hip flexor doesn't have to move, and you take your belly and your ribs back. Then maybe you can come up, interlacing your fingers, find your elbows, lift those elbows up. So Mike, hands on the block, because you're too wobbly. Hands on the block. Yeah. So what you're doing when you come up is you sacrifice the hip stretch, and anytime you're wibbly wobbly in a body that's not super open, it's just not worth it.
Okay.
So watch that knee. See how the knee's coming in? Yeah. Okay. So think of a stick in your right hip flexor, pull your hip flexor towards your butt. Now the tendency here is to drop into that left thigh, so the left thigh lifts up away from the floor. Front thigh to back thigh. It's a really strong connection. Elbows draw back and lift up. Just a few more breaths. So again, it's about taking the torso back. Taking the entire torso back. Stick in the elbows, lift. Stick in the armpits, move the armpits towards the ears. And then when you're ready, hands are going to come down. We're going to pull the hips back. We're going to step the right foot back. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. Tuck your toes. Keep your toes tucked. Bring your hands onto the mat. Those of us that want to can use a stick. If it's hard, probably means you should use it. Index fingers forward. Spread your fingers away from the index fingers. And find a nice puppy pose. So arms are straight, elbows are lifted. Puppies are down dogs that are just prepping, right? So it's like a baby down dog. So hands are shoulders distance apart. And it's more important to have your ears with your arms than your forehead on the floor. So let's bring those hands forward if you can. And with you. And then back. Your butt and shoulders. Puppy. There you go. So it's an external rotation of the upper arm, internal rotation of the lower arm. Hyperextenders, make sure you find that bend in the elbows. Take your stick or your imaginary stick as far away from the wrists as you can. Stick in the backs of the knees towards the kneecaps. Lift your ribs, lift your belly off your thighs. It's like I want you to get rid of the wrinkles in your neck. Yeah. So that was a really big action. Find less of an action, but no wrinkles. There you go. And then pull the raw line to the sternum. There you go. There you go. See if you can feel the difference between your right hip and your left hip. And then either staying here in a puppy or making your way into a down dog. Either or. Keeping all those same connections. Nice, and you're nailing your hands, which is fantastic. So you feel like bend these knees because you're going back to your habits. Now try and straighten this and take your hips back with bent knees. There you go. So this is, you don't want to move it back to the knees as much, right? You want it to open the shoulders. So this staying level is more important than this straightening.
Okay.
There you go. Does anybody feel the difference between their hips? Yeah? Usually your right hip feels higher and bigger and broader, because we've done the hip work on the right side already. And again, it's not a no or a bad thing if you don't feel the difference. It just means that, you know, that body awareness will come with time. Let's just go 2 more breaths here. So then when those 2 breaths are complete, we're going to come back down into tabletop position. We're going to find our blocks. Find our palms on the blocks. Find our fingers wrapping the blocks. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. Tuck your toes. Step your left foot forward. So number 1 rule, left shin stays at a 90. Knee stays over ankle. You want a straight line from big toe to heel. Feet are a little tiny bit wider. Yeah, purple mat. I'm sorry, I forget your name. Jenny? Jen. Just wider with your feet. So this is feet at in line. I want your feet at hips distance apart. It's easier, so that left knee, I want you to work it so it's over the ankle. Yeah, there you go. So once your shin is straight, you zip your belly, you find your hands, make sure you can shake your head, there's no valleys, but your neck is happy, and then walk that left knee back, keeping the hips square. Good. And then all we have to do is we think about keeping the heels centered, no wrinkles, and we push into that left heel to lift that left knee. We think of all the sticks in the hips and the ankles. We think inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. See that knee? It's got to come over your ankle. There you go. So your inner knee has to move towards your outer knee to keep your knee right over your ankle. That's really important. Linda, a tiny bit, the front foot has to move forward just a little bit, or the back foot moves back. Keep coming just a bit more. Good. So now one of the most common things that we might do is come up and lose the knee, right? So if you're not needing the blocks, you can bring your hands to the floor. You really find the connection of the legs. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block, front thigh, back thigh. So that right thigh lifts up, and then inject both hamstrings, lengthen the calves to try and straighten out that back leg. Tiny mini micro bend, and then maybe your hands can come to your knee. And then really think about the stick in that left hip flexor, and then just lift your belly and your ribs off that left thigh to create space in that left hip flexor. Often we come up and we go into this weird back bend to come up, and we're avoiding opening the hips when we do that. Nicole, inner knee to outer knee. Yeah, you feel it, hey? So you want to lengthen from, what's that? You can if you want. Lengthen from inner groin to inner knee to outer knee. Now you feel how it's right over the ankle. And then if you're up and you can keep the thigh and the shin, then you just start to bring your belly and your ribs back. You can maybe interlace your fingers, this time left hand on top of right. Bring your hand to the back of the skull. Find the sticks in the elbows and lift those sticks up. Make sure you can move your neck. And then the hip flexor stick goes one way, the elbow stick goes the other way to really lengthen the torso. And then it's literally ribs and chest back. So before we can back bend, you've got to learn to lengthen the spine, right? Back of the knee to front of the knee. And then inject this baby. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you feel that difference. Instantly stable. And then you need to find this stick. Yeah. Breathe in. What's that?
So tight after this thing.
Yeah, biking 700 kilometers might do that. And then camping, I just can't even believe you. I think about me complaining about not having AC and you camping after hiking or biking 100K a day. 2 more breaths. And then when those 2 breaths are complete, hands coming down. Again, keep the shin at a 90. Try not to let that shin move forward or back. Stack your joints. As you reach the right knee back, you keep the hips distance apart. You point the right foot, you push into the top foot, but lift the ankles to get rid of any wrinkles in that heel. Feet are hips distance apart, shin is at a 90. So again, if you're lower, you're lower. One leg, when we're open, this is flush, this is flush. Pull the femurs in, zip our bellies, lean into it. If we lean into it and the knee moves over the foot, then that's a sign that we needed to move the right knee back a little further. And if we're happy here, we can keep the shin, we can bring our hands up, zipping our belly, lift that right thigh up, don't sink right into the hips, but really lift the right thigh up, inject your femurs, take your torso back, interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right to the back of the skull, find your elbows at shoulders distance, an extension, no tension, take the bend in the elbows towards the elbow. And then take your ribs and your belly back as you lengthen up. It's not a twist. We want the ribs and the chest to evenly move back as the skin of the armpits moves forward. So you see how you're losing that knee. So better to not come up, but to keep this. Because for you, what we really want to do is open your hips, correct? Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. So you're avoiding the hips. And it just puts the knee at risk. Yeah. Do you see the difference? Mm-hmm. And you feel the difference in your hip, right? Yeah. Okay. So until we're getting this, it's like the foundation of the house. You don't want to build the second and third story before your first story is rock solid. Let's just go 3 more breaths here. That connection worked, you're nailing the knee.
Mm-hmm. I feel it. I can't feel the connection in my knee, but I feel it when it happens in my hip.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh.
And one makes you avoid the stretch, right?
I'm getting it. Don't worry. I feel it.
And then nice and slow, we're going to bring those arms down onto blocks or not onto blocks. We're going to pull the hips back. We're going to step the left knee back. You can take a child's pose, a puppy pose, or a down dog pose, whatever your preference, but really keeping the connections. Integrating what you've learned and finding it in whatever rest pose you're choosing. Slow down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Nice, Shelly. Now keep it. Don't think about going deeper. Just find those connections. Take your stick away from your wrists. Yeah, energetically. Inject your hamstrings. Get rid of the wrinkles in your neck. And then lengthen your mid-upper back towards your sternum. There, you feel that, eh? Mm-hmm. Nice. Now go back to your arms. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Martha, find your ribs for me. Zip, zip, zip those ribs. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, everybody's going to meet in a child's pose. As long as they don't feel their knees and as long as their forehead is resting on something. And we're just going to breathe here. So going back to a mantra, sticking with the same mantra, exhale out what no longer serves you. It could be something physical, mental, or emotional, and then inhale to draw in the opposite of whatever it is you're letting go of. Do you feel your knees?
Yeah.
In the child's pose, where do you feel it? Like,
Right there, both.
both.
Yeah.
So let's triple this up and see, and if not, then we can support the backs of the knees. Just see if that makes a difference. And just know what's going on. And then put your forehead on something so there's less weight in the knees. Is that better? So you don't feel them at all?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Shelly, get rid of the wrinkles in the back of the neck. There you go. Think about energetically the back of the skull lifting up, forehead gently rooting down. Lengthen the middle of the back. Gently. 10 more breaths here. And then when those 10 reps are complete, hands underneath the shoulders into tabletop position, just opening up the backs of the knees. And then we're going to look at what we're going to do next. So for the next pose, we're going to need 2 blocks, and some of us are going to need a green foamy. I'm going to get you to demo, or I'll demo, it's fine, but I'll use your mat. So if I know I have a sensitive knee, and Mike, we'll see how this goes for you, right? This maybe, you might have a different option for you. So, and again, it depends on how tight I am in the hip flexors and the quads. So for me, this double mat is plenty. You could fold your mat up in 4 if you wanted to, and half again to get some more padding here. If you were super sensitive, you could use a green foamy, which I can show you. So you just put the green foamy here. So I start by like sitting on my shins. I then take my right knee back. My right knee's in line with my hip, and I'm going to take my right foot out to the right. For some of us, we're like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Like that's just not going to happen. So if that was the case, then I could be further away from the wall, right? Just like this, right? But then I find that action in my foot. I try and get rid of the wrinkles in my heels. Wrinkles in my heels, blocking energy, right? Knee doesn't love it as much as if I use my foot and push into my foot to get rid of the wrinkles, right? A lot of us will then want to have blocks. And the nice thing about blocks is you can square your hips and you can try and keep your hips square. The habit here is that this left hip is going to come up, right? And then what does my low back look like? It's in a weird curve, right? Essentially, we're going towards the back bend. We don't want that curve in our back bend. So we talk a lot about the thicker bit of the thigh and moving it down. We think of an external rotation of this thigh to move that thicker bit down, and my hip flexor moves towards my butt to level it out, right? And then I can come up. So those of us with our knee away, it might be here, it might be here, it might be here, it might be here. This is great. This is amazing psoas stretch, but I'm just working on the hips. Those of us that can get the foot right to the wall, right? So we step it forward, we find the sitting. We can then first start to bring it back. So as I come back, I want to think about my hips being level. I might want to bring this foot back a little bit, and then eventually I can sit on the inside of my heel and get my shoulders to the wall with my hips level. My foot's super active, so I don't feel that right knee at all. But I do this a lot, so my right knee and my leg are used to working that hard. If not, then you just add more padding. Then eventually you could come up and just try and keep the ribs and everything connected. If that's feeling fabulous, then you can start to bring it forward. Usually you're gonna walk that foot forward. You find the lift and the lengthen. If I'm doing the back bend, I bring the foot in, so it's no longer Virasana, it's Ekapada. I think about that stick in my elbows. I lift, I lift, I lift. I flip my hands, I bring my fingers to the wall, and I might walk my fingers back. I find a stick, I let my head go. Right? So it's a lot of activity, a lot of sticks in the hip flexors, ankles, and knees, if that makes sense. To come out of it, I then pull my hips back, I take my left shin back, I take my right shin forward. If I needed a rest, I could sit on as much height as I needed to take a little rest here, or I could sit on my heels, and then I would try the other side. Okay? So let's give it a shot. You're gonna wait for me, Mike, so we'll do it together. I'll get everybody in, and then you and I'll do it together. What's that? You got one right here. Who else feels like they'd like a green foam? I know, take one. Yeah. Do you have something? You got something? We don't know what's amazing. Anybody else green foamy? Okay. Woo-hoo.
My knees are like,
So we're sitting on our shins, right? We're in tabletop position. Blocks makes it a lot easier. We keep our knees and our ankles and our hips in line, and we take our right knee as close to the wall as we can. So Robin, you'll probably want to move your mat back because you see there's a little crack. Yeah. So you get your right knee as close to the wall as you can. So knee touching wall. So Jen, if you can, you're going to take your knee right to that wall. If you can't, you can't. You just see what you can do. If you can't do knee to the wall, then you bring it forward. So you wait for me, okay? You don't go any further than that. But you can stay there. You look great. But just stay there. Okay? Kick your foot into the wall. Try and get rid of any wrinkles in your heels. Make sure your left knee is a hips distance apart. It's not too close. So one of the big things is this. We lose the femur bone and we come onto the inner knee, which our inner knee doesn't like. So you want to keep the right leg in a straight line. And then maybe we can step that left foot forward. This is where the blocks come in handy. Good. And then we take our left hand and we really use our hand to move the outer thigh down and the hip flexor down, sit bone down. And then if we're already hitting our numbers, we just stay here with our hands on the blocks. If we're feeling great, we start to come back, we can work our torso to the wall. So your femur is not in a straight line, so you gotta move your hips that way. Yeah. All right.
as soon as I do this,
Yeah.
it's like my quad is, this quad is done.
So you have two options. You can stay here for the quad stretch, or you can move this knee forward to step back. Like there's, 6 of this, half dozen of that. And Mike has the same option, and then you could walk this foot forward, good, and then you work this down. So it depends on what you're looking for. One's more of a quad stretch, one's more of a psoas stretch, both are good. So here, keep your hands down and try and work this hip level. So this moves down, so you're moving it towards this, keep it square, and then think of this stick. And remember your numbers, this looks like a good number to me. I don't think you need to go any further.
Okay.
How does this feel for you? Are you getting a good stretch?
Yeah, I'll never make this leg up.
Never say never, but not today maybe. But we could, if we wanted less or wanted to change it, we could move that knee forward. It would be less of a quad stretch if that's what you want. Yeah, so you feel how that softens it.
Right.
Then you'd have more of a hope, not that you need to, but you could maybe bring that around. Never say never, but that foot would have to come here to get that shin straight. And if it doesn't, we can always move this knee forward. Both are good stretches though, they're just different.
Okay.
How's that?
Right.
Yeah, and they're still good, no pain, you don't feel your knees. So keep it out of that right knee, kick your foot into the wall. And then if you're up, you can bring your arms up if you wanted to. Everybody's good? Nice. So really going to that thicker bit of the thigh, working it down, going to the sticks in the backs of the knees, moving them forward, stick in the hip flexors. Good. You want to come out at any time you come out. We should never feel our knees in yoga. And then if you want more, the option is to kind of come forward a little bit. Sometimes you have to walk your foot forward, sometimes you don't, it just depends. I like to move my right foot a little bit more centered, so it's less Virasana and more Ekapada, and then you come up, this time like a back bend, so the hips come forward. You then interlace your fingers, find the backs of the elbows, lift, 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 lift. Flip the hands, fingers touch the wall, and you can walk your fingers towards your feet. Nice. Nice. Options, right? Let's just go 5 more breaths on this side. So if you can, you want to move the hips that way. Yes, you want to keep that thigh bone in line.
Good, here's two.
What's cramped now? I'm not surprised. This is the adductor, right? Which is full on. And then when you're done, use your feet to come out, hands come onto your blocks. You step the left knee back, you step the right knee forward. You can either sit on blocks, or if you were feeling like that was awkward, you can bring your legs forward like this. Right, so it's, traditionally we sit on our heels or on blocks, but if that's not comfortable for you, you can sit with your legs forward. Go easy, Mike. Yeah, slow, slow. There you go. You okay? And so then this one's a really good option. I'm just breathing. Close your eyes, focus on your body from the inside, focus on your breath. So this pose doesn't lie, so it tells us the difference between our sides, right? So we want to use that information. We want to try and do the sides the same, but maybe we're not going to. If it feels like it's too much of a stretch, we do less, but then we remember how deep we went on this side, so next time we do it, we don't go as deep on the other side. Does that make sense? Everyone gets that? Okay. We do not want to be walking around in circles at 85, so we want to try and even our bodies out. All right, when you're ready. So again, options are knees together. You can have your blocks, makes it a lot easier. This time we take the left knee as close to the wall as is comfortable. We take the left foot outside the left ankle for the Virasana position. We really think about squaring the hips, and then we step that right foot forward. Ankles, knees, and hips in a straight line. There's a tendency that we move towards our neighbor on the right. Keep the right femur, right knee in alignment. Kick the foot into the wall. And then as you come up, sometimes, it took me a long time to get this, I physically externally rotate my thigh, particularly finding the thicker bit of the thigh. I think of my hip flexor moving towards my butt, and then I try and keep those hips level as I start to bring first my pelvis, then my ribs, then my belly back. Eventually, sometimes the foot is further back than you think. Yeah. Nice. And then it's a great place to really visualize that stick. So it's fantastic because it's Virasana for people that can't do Virasana. So is your femur straight?
I don't think so.
No, so fix it.
This way?
You got it, you know it. Keep going.
Really?
Keep going. Keep going.
Like move my knees?
No, your knee doesn't have to move to get your femur straight. You're leaning trapeza. There you go.
Now I feel like I'm moving it. That's crazy.
But look at your knee and look at your hip. You see how the femur's straight now? You see what I see?
Yes.
Yeah. So bones and joints are better when straight, right? Leaning trapeza, we don't know how long it's going to last. It's gorgeous, but it's an anomaly.
You can, right?
Yeah, take yourself while you can, exactly. Pull those femurs in. A nice option for you is also just doing this. Number 4 pose is good at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, same stretch.
Yeah.
You did great with that one. You felt okay?
I did a few
Yesterday?
I finished with these, so.
It's also getting used to this. The green foamy would help for sure. You can bring those arms up if you want to. Again, making sure you do your sides the same. You can count your breaths. Try to match them evenly. So what I like to think of, I'm going to touch your thigh if that's okay. Find your blocks. I'm going to think about, yes, you nailed it. Really physically thinking of an external rotation, particularly the upper thigh, and then pulling this down to flex your back. You can high level out your hips. Now I'm going to keep your knee just over, yeah, there we go. And you might want to bring your heel back a little bit for stability because you've opened up, good. And then keep those connections. I'm going to let go and then try and see that. Oh yeah, you feel that difference, hey? Stability. And then if you are going for the back bend, sometimes you have to move the foot forward, sometimes not, but you want to keep the joints stacked until you do this a lot. You come away from the wall like you're doing the back bend. You think about the ribs and the belly pulling back, you find the elbows, you lift, you lengthen, you take the hands to the wall, and you walk them back. And it doesn't lie. And nice that you can do both sides the same. So the trick is front thigh to back thigh, inject your femurs, yeah, and you want to watch this shin because on you, we're not open enough in the hips yet. So walk that foot forward. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Once you're like, keep coming. Once you're super open in the hips, then you can play with this, but until that happens, yeah, nice. And then think ribs back, yeah, belly back, nice. Nice, chest back.
It's hard with the head.
It is.
To get the whole person.
Yeah, it is. It's up. Nice.
And you can, but I like that you can press your whole forward.
It's great, and it doesn't let you cheat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is nice. So many people cheat in this. And then when you're done, you're gonna come forward. Hands are gonna come to the floor. You're gonna step the right leg back. You're gonna step the left leg forward, and you're gonna find a nice rest pose. Closing your eyes and just finding your breath. Shoulder heads back, armpits forward, sitting up nice and tall. Big, beautiful breaths. And then coming forward, we're just going to open up the backs of the knees. And then you're going to find a seated position for Kapalabhati. Traditionally for me, I do Kapalabhati first thing in the morning. So I sit on my shins because I feel like it's a warm-up for sitting cross-legged. So if you can sit on your shins, that's a great way to do it. You're going to sit on here with your feet forward. I'm going to sit cross-legged, and I don't want you to feel your knees at all. So yeah, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and slide it in here. Nice. And then I want you to think about lifting off that, guys. Yeah. You feel that? Yeah, so your legs are nice and active. You feel your knees at all, just straighten the leg. Right, so for me, sitting like this is how I do it, but I want my shoulders over my hips, my ears over my shoulders. So if I'm leaning forward or back bending, not so good. Some people sit cross-legged. If they're like, I can wake up in the morning and sit cross-legged and it's no big deal. That's not me. So I sit on my shins. So Kapalabhati we call it a Kriya. Some people call it pranayama. Our lineage calls it a Kriya, which is a cleansing technique. It's designed to clear your sinuses, kind of clear and brighten out your eyes. If you had an allergy, step with your eyes. If you have any stuffiness in your nose, it clears your ears. So it's amazing after flights or swimming, you get blocked up. It's great for digestion. We use it to cure, and I've seen it work so many times. We use it to cure constipation. It's great for strengthening your belly, for building up your metabolism. Anything I'm missing? Anybody? I think that's most of them. Strengthening the abdomen. We wouldn't do it if we were pregnant, if we had sinusitis, which is like you can't breathe through your nose. You wouldn't do it if you just had abdominal surgery. Anything else?
Period.
What's that?
Period.
Period. Thank you very much. Period or pregnant. You wouldn't do it. So if you have any of those things going on, then just finding, that 3-part, yoga breath is great. Okay? We try not to move, so what I do is I keep my hands on my thighs, shoulders back, heart center lifted. Look at you on one holster. Although you might want to eventually, and let me know when I can grab you one, but that's gosh darn close. So I use my hands on my thighs. I keep a little mini bend in my elbows, and I think of my pincha arms to keep the stability, so that when I take a big inhale, big exhale, and I'll show you the first one, I take an inhale, I exhale and draw my belly back. So we believe that it's less strenuous on the mind if we just go with a steady, slow beat, and that when we get hella good at that steady, slow beat, then we can pick up the pace, okay? We don't want any bubbles. If you feel a bubble, you know you feel it, you stop, right? We don't want any cramps. If you feel a cramp, you stop, all right? We don't want any tension physically or mentally. If you get that, you stop, you just join in the next round. Those of us that do this a lot, if you want to bang out your usual 100, go for it. But the rest of us are going to do 40 if 40 feels good. If 40 feels like too much, you do less. You stop when you stop, okay? The exhale is forced. The inhale is like a vacuum. It's automatic, right? So it's like, you don't think about the inhale, it just happens.
It's 40 exhales for one inhale?
No, so you automatically inhale. Like it's, you don't go, that's tension causing, whereas it's just, I'm automatically inhale, I don't think about it, I just think of the exhale. Once you do it, you'll feel it, but do allow yourself to inhale. Absolutely. Good medical. Bring that up. Nobody needs to pass out today. Count on the doctor. All right, so when you're ready, sitting up nice and tall, kick into your feet. We start with the cleansing breath. Big inhale, big exhale, big inhale. Then once you've done your 40, you sit quietly for 1 minute. I like to bend my index finger because eventually when I'm doing rounds of 800, it's very hard to keep track. And when I bend my index finger, I know that I've done 1 round. At any point you have to change your seated position, do it. If at any point you have to move, do it. We try not to move, but not to a point of pain. I'm coming around with tissue if you need it. This does clear the sinuses and it works incredibly well. So if you need it. That's straight, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Awesome. All right, so as we come into our second round, it's the same thing. Remember, no tension, no strain. Big inhale to fill the lungs. Big exhale to empty. Big inhale, draw the belly back as you exhale. Once you hit your 40 count, you're going to bend your middle finger to indicate you've done 2 rounds. You're going to sit quietly with your natural breath, just observing your body from the inside, not sitting through any pain. If you need to change your seated position, you change it. Remember, we're breathing in and out through the nose, not the mouth, just straight in and out through the nose. As we come into our third round, we begin the same way. Big inhale to fill the lungs, big exhale to empty. Big inhale, draw the belly back to exhale. Once those 40 rounds are complete, we return to our natural breathing. We bend the ring finger to indicate that we've done 3 rounds. We're sitting quietly, focusing on the body from the inside, moving if necessary, but being as still as we can be comfortably. As we come into our 4th and final round, I want you to try and count yourself to 40. So when you're ready, big inhale, big exhale, big inhale. Exhale to draw the belly back. And then again, sitting quietly with your natural breath. Sometimes we feel a little bit of a buzz, a little bit like zing zing, like after a couple drinks at the cocktail party. It's not a bad thing, it's just your body getting oxygen in places that it's not used to getting oxygen, little cell party. If it lasted for hours and hours and hours, you want to talk to me about that. So coming out of it when you're ready, you're going to come through tabletop position, you're going to open up the backs of the knees. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Can that be practice lying down?
What's that?
Can that be practice lying down?
I suppose it could be if you had to.
But it's better so.
Yeah, I think it's better seated.
And you can do reps of 100, more than one rep.
Start with 40, and
And
then
then I do 100.
don't do 100
Don't do
for you.
100 at a time.
No, I want you to get better at 40. Yeah, I want you to really be good at 40. If you're apprenticing, I want you to do that 3 times a week. Every morning, 3 times a week. Not 3 times a week in the morning before you do anything else. So before you have a cup of coffee, before you have a glass of water, just 40, and I want you to get really good at 40.
5 sets of 40?
4 sets of 40.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll work up from there. Sometimes it's better to start at the beginning. Often, more times than not, it's better to start at the beginning and just really figure it out. If you have to do it lying down, you do it lying down, but if you can do it, come over the feet, or you can take your feet out to the side, hands out to the other side, sweep the legs forward, open up the backs of the legs, and then just a little bit of pointing and flexing here. Shoulder heads back, armpits forward. And then circles. Change direction with the circles. And so for me, that's pranayama prep. As opposed to pranayama, I do that before my pranayama. It warms up my knees for my cross-legged position. It brings my mind really present, brings clarity of thought, right? So then when I'm, if I just go to meditative pranayama, I'm usually thinking about 652 million things, whereas that requires a lot of concentration, so it just brings you in. Plus it gives you that nice little buzz, and it's kind of nice to meditate with a little buzz. Little buzz. And then when you're ready, we're gonna come down onto our backs, so lots of room behind you, knees together, feet together, hands behind the thighs, make a C, come down one disc, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. Just walk those feet in, draw those legs up, just give those legs a little shoulders relaxed. We're gonna go into Shavasana from here, so if you need to put on a sweater or socks or anything, do. Not that I think you have to do that before you meditate. If you've got 2 minutes to meditate, meditate, right? If you're sitting in your car waiting for someone, meditate. If you're waiting for the kettle to boil, meditate. If you've got 20 minutes to do a warm-up and then meditate, that's great too, but that's not reality. If you'd like something underneath your knees that you don't have, just keep the soles of the feet on the floor, and I can put a bolster underneath your knees, or you've got blocks there, and then straighten out your legs one at a time. Arms out beside you, palms facing up, let the shoulders relax. If you want a blanket, put your right hand on your belly. If you want something for underneath your head, kind of like a neck roll, put your left hand on your belly. So right hand for blanket, left hand for neck roll. Arms out beside you, palms facing up. Close your eyes, and then just be as still as you can be.